If you go to Trader Joe's, there is a 50% chance they will be out of stock of carrot juice, which means that about 50% of the time I go and get groceries, they're out of carrot juice. They have two sizes, small, large. I get the large, and they seem to be always out of it. Also, the expiration date is not that far in advance, so it's kind of like a gamble. Should I buy a lot of carrot juice and hope that I finish it before the expiration date, or should I buy a moderate amount of carrot juice and then restock when I run out? What I usually do is the moderate amount, but sometimes I don't do that. One time Trader Joe's was out of a spaghetti that I love, and I got so frantic that the next time I bought 12 packs of that spaghetti and I'm still using it. That was months ago. But I've been trying to implement an abundance mindset. I like to do abundance mindset. And so I've been getting 3 large carrot juices max. But that means that I run out fairly quickly. A cup a day. A cup a day. A cup a day. Listen, in Europe, they go to the grocery store every day, is what I hear, or the market, or whatever. And here we go to Costco and get groceries like once a year. I try and do somewhere in between. I like to get groceries, I don't know, once a week. Trader Joe's kind of forces me to, because either I'll be eating rotten carrot juice or I will not have any carrot juice. But the time I went last week, they were out of carrot juice, and I was also out of carrot juice. And so the next day I went, I go to Trader Joe's at the same time. Whenever I'm going, it is a small parking lot. If you go anytime during the day, they're packed. It doesn't matter if it is 2 p.m. These people do not have jobs. Nobody has a job these days. The parking lot is packed. Housewives, not housewives, workers, lunch break, whatever. It is always packed, and it is excruciating to find a parking space, park, and then go inside. Axed it. I've tried multiple times. Axed it. I just left the parking lot. And so I go every day right before they close. I'm talking like 10 minutes before they close. 8:50 p.m. I'm sure they hate me. It's no problem. It's no problem. I love them. But I go right before they close, and the parking lot is empty, and they're always restocking things. This time though, they did not have carrot juice, and so I just bought a couple of things. Sometimes I feel pressured into buying multiple things because I don't want them putting one thing in a bag. Sometimes I'll get that awkward number of items where it's probably too many to carry out in your arms. If it's just one thing, I'll carry it out in my arms. But to use a double paper bag feels kind of like a waste. So I usually end up getting random stuff so that I'm not wasting paper. Anyway, I just got a bunch of random stuff instead of the carrot juice I had came for that night last week. There was nobody in. There's no one in 10 minutes before closing, and it's usually the same people working there. So I go to the checkout. There's a woman, bleached hair, a bedazzled Apple Watch, and hey, we didn't really chat, but hey, she checked me out, I left, and then I asked customer service when they would restock the large carrot juice, and they said tomorrow. And so your ass better believe that I was there tomorrow. So I went back the next night at the exact same time, and I got a lot of carrot juice. They were back in stock, and I got a lot of carrot juice. But when I went to check out, I looked down at the cashier's hand, and she was wearing an Apple Watch with a bejeweled case. And so I looked back up at her, and I started like grinning because it was a day later. And she grinned back at me, and so I started bugging my eyes, and she started bugging her eyes. So I was like, oh great, she recognizes me. And so when she was checking me out, I was like, long time no see. And she goes, oh yeah, it has been a long time. Where have you been? What have you been up to? And I said, oh Lord have mercy. And I thought about being like, no, I was just playing. I was just pranking. I was here yesterday trying to get my carrot juice. And she started BSing, being like, oh yeah, of course I remember you. It's been such a long time. This poor woman thought I was schizophrenic, and she was being so kind that I didn't have the heart to tell her that I was just kidding and I'd been there yesterday. And since I was only getting some carrot juice, I was like, I can just carry it. And then she started putting it in the bag, and she goes, what was that? And I said, oh, nothing. And then I did that thing where I lower my voice in hopes that not talking in the future will erase what I've said in the past. But despite her bad memory, she has a good ear. And she goes, oh, you said you didn't want a bag? And I said, no, it's really fine, it's really fine. She said, no, if you don't want a bag, you don't want a bag. So she starts taking out the carrot juice, and I bundle it up in my arms and I go. I could have sworn that the way she was looking at me when I walked up to that checkout register, that she recognized me, but clearly not. I think that I recognized her, looked down at the watch, and I was so pleased with myself that I must have started geeking out on her, like absolutely smiling, bugging my eyes. And she was like, oh, we've got a crazy one today. We've got a crazy one. And so she started mimicking me. She did not know me. But I got my carrot juice, and that is all that matters. Other things I've got recently are a lot of books. A lot of books. I said recently that I was tired of owning books. I am tired of owning books. Whenever I watch a book haul, or just like a video, or talk to someone and they're like, oh yeah, I couldn't restrain myself, like I went in Barnes & Noble or whatever, and I just like walked out with so many books. I'm like, oh, blah blah blah, you're doing it for content, you're just being silly, which I get. But this book haul, my book haul, has really convinced me that it might be a disease. It might be a disease. Because I was tumbling out of control. I could not stop buying books. I swore that after I pruned my bookshelves, I would not buy any more books because, I'm sick, can you tell? Oh, I won't cough on you, Oh, don't kiss me, baby. Oh, maybe a little one, no tongue. Oh, I'm sorry. My friend in another city fell ill, and I was like, you fool, you weak fool. And then I got sick a day later. What prompted that? That I said disease? I really feel like it's a disease. I cannot stop buying books. It feels like spiritual binging and purging. I'm exhausted. I have hundreds of books waiting to go to Goodwill, piled up. I'm looking at them right now. And I keep buying books, and I know I'm not going to read them. I'm probably going to average 20, 30 books for the next couple years, a year. I will not get to these books. I don't know what I'm doing, but I can't stop. So I really empathize, sympathize, thick thighs with people who can't stop themselves from buying books. It is a real thing. And I know that in a month, I'm going to be over half of these books, and in 2 months they will be back at Goodwill, but I'm stimulating the economy. What are you doing, you dumb doggy? I'm going to forget because I'm not including them in this video, but I recently won an auction on eBay for a lot of Edward Gorey books, like 20 of them, and one of them was signed, which the listing did not disclose. I bid like 3 times what I won the auction for. It was a wonderful deal. But I don't think anyone wants to see me hold up Edward Gorey books. This is that. But they're all wonderful, and I'm very pleased with my purchase. Let's get on to the books that you're here for. Lit fic, non-fic, chit lit, fit lit. The first book, I don't know why I bought this. I bought this at the Goodwill bins. This is called The Dig, a novel based on true events. I think I bought this because Ian McEwan blurbs it. He says, a very fine, engrossing, and exquisitely original novel. This reminds me of the book Holes, and for that reason I did not want to buy it, but the summary sounded really interesting. If anyone has read this, let me know. I doubt it. You're so dumb. Do you even read, you dumb doggy? The summary on the back says, in the long hot summer of 1939, Britain is preparing for war. Listen, I am sick of war. But on a riverside farm in Suffolk, there is excitement of another kind. Mrs. Pretty, the widowed owner of the farm, has had her hunch confirmed that the mounds on her land hold buried treasure. As the dig proceeds, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary find. Preston's re-envisioning of the famed Sutton Hoo dig follows 3 life-changing months when locals fought outsiders, professionals, thwarted amateurs, and infatuate. That's enough. What I took away from this is that there's hidden treasure somewhere, and I love hidden treasure. I love treasure, but I love it even more when it's hidden. Next book I bought was The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. I've actually already read a quarter of this book and stopped reading a quarter of this book. But this video is not about my thoughts. We're not going to weigh it down with thoughts. I'm just going to let you know that I bought this, and at a later point in a later time, I will explain my thoughts on it. This was at a thrift store, and there was a sign that said books are free. Books are free. And there were very few tantalizing books per se, but this was one of them. I've been looking for another Margaret Atwood to read. I actually own Elias Grace, who knows, who cares? And I wanted to read that one, but instead I picked up this one. Listen, if a book is waved in front of my face, I'll pick it up. I can't do plans. I'll watch a YouTuber talking about a video and I'll say, I want to read that. And I'll buy it. In the spirit of that, I bought the book Bad Lawyer by Anna Dorn because two of the hottest booktubers, two of the smartest booktubers I know, Yenna at Modern Ajuma and Kieran Reader, talk about the love for Anna Dorn. And so I bought it on eBay a month ago, and then I was like, where is that book? And I checked the tracking and it seems to be lost in transit. So that book might have to be axed off the TBR or whatever per se, but I did buy it. Margaret Atwood. Oh. Next book is another book that I recently bought, $2, and started reading and put down. Listen, Lord forgive me for saying this, I'm sure Ann Tyler, look at her beautiful face on the cover of this book. I'm sure she is a beautiful woman. We just looked at her. Lord forgive me for saying this, but she is just a castrated Elizabeth Strout. I started reading this book and it was so boring and so woe is me. Listen, I love the title, The Beginner's Goodbye. Listen, I'm one for kitsch. I am one for indulging in kitsch and sap and whatever else. And The Beginner's Goodbye really did that for me. I was like, oh yes, I'm sad all the time. I'm sure I would love this book. I didn't love it. It is all of the minutia of daily life and its sadness, but it's not moving at all. That's what Elizabeth Strout does really well, the minutia of daily life. And it's really moving, but Ann Tyler, listen, it's not for me. It is not for me. I think I just happened to really I didn't even like it while I was reading it up until the end. It just changed how I think. Or something. The writing is fine, but it is completely... Look, a siren. Do you hear it? Ann Tyler's writing, while decent, and I'm at the point of saying that it's not even that wonderful, is just completely devoid of emotion, of anything that moves you. I mean, the events are tragic. This guy's wife dies, and the premise is that she comes back from the dead. I don't know if it's paranormal or if he's schizophrenic. I would prefer the latter, but it seems to have been up to the 25% that I read the former. I was so bored and like this. And so I put it down. I bought that a couple days ago and it's going right back to Goodwill. Who do I think I am? This is Man and His Symbols by Jung. I bought this a couple days ago and I don't even remember why. I think it's because I've gotten really exhausted. I'm weary. With fiction, I don't know. I don't have the patience. I just want to read non-fiction or something in that realm. Essays, philosophy. I just want to posture as someone with brains. I swear someone or something said something about Jung, and that's what made me pick this up. But it was pretty cheap on Amazon. This is like one of the two, maybe the only book I bought new from this haul. I don't know, I'm tired of fiction, and I think it's just because I picked up one too many boring books, and so I'm on a not fiction grind, whether that's non-fiction or philosophy or psychology. Speaking of fiction, I am really excited to read and have been almost picking up every day since I bought it at Goodwill. This is The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. I saw this at Goodwill a couple months ago and I almost bought it and I was like, It has a low Goodreads rating, but what does that mean? Probably that the book will be a romp, is what I have learned, that the book will be a romp. But then I was reading Bret Easton Ellis's essay collection, and he said that this is a masterpiece, absolutely wonderful. I think what he said was that a book he wished he'd written was The Corrections, this book, while he was in the midst of shitting on David Foster Wallace, who blurbs the back of this book along with 3 literary giants. Can you read that, you dumb doggy? Next book I bought, let's do these together. These are 2 Somerset Maugham books. Listen, I have not read a single one of his books, but I've somehow found myself in possession of, with these, 6 of his books now. 6 of his books. I don't know what it is. I bought one book because I was like, I want to see what the hype is about, and I think that I'd get on with him. And then I found the second one for a cheap price, and then I found a really cool edition of the third one, and then these were, well, one of them is a really cool edition, Cakes and Ale, and I was like, it's much more expensive on eBay. If I want it, I better buy it now. And Cakes and Ale is supposed to be his silly novel, per the inside flap. He says that it is his favorite novel, while he considers Of Human Bondage his masterpiece. But I found this for $5 at a Second and Charles, which is just a terrible used bookstore. And I found Theater for also $5, and it is also more expensive on eBay. Listen, I cross-reference. I am a spendthrift. No, I'm not a spendthrift. Did you know spendthrift means you're actually not thrifty? That always blows my mind. It always blows my mind. I think we should change that. Spendthrift means that you like to save money. I am a spendthrift. And so I'm always cross-referencing where I can buy the cheapest book. And I was like, listen, if these are cheap on eBay, I just won't buy them. And when the moment strikes, I'll buy them. But the synopsis of Theater really tantalizes me. And also, I love a funny book. Although, typically when an author writes a book intending to be funny, I find it completely humorless and boring and awful. I don't know which of his books to pick up first, but I know that whichever one I'm going to pick up, I'm going to hate it, and then I'm going to donate the rest of the books to Goodwill, but I can't stop myself. I was in Second and Charles pacing up and down the aisles. I was so anxious, and I was like, I gotta go. I got places to be, so I just bought the books and called it a day. Let's do the next 4 books. I buy a lot of books on eBay because they're cheap. If you use, thrift books. Don't do thrift books. Just buy books from eBay. There are tons of vendors like thrift books that aren't thrift books on eBay, and they have free shipping. If there is any literary fiction book that was published like more than 10 years ago, I'm sure that it is on eBay, and there are tons of copies. My favorite seller of used books on eBay is seller? They're called Second Sale, and I'm sure they'll pop up if you Google a book, like I said, anything. They have like every lit fic book that has been published 10 years before, and they're usually just $4, $3 to $4. If it's a more hard to find book, like $7. But I like Second Sale because they're always running a buy 3 get 1 free sale, so the books end up being like $2 or $3 with free shipping. It's wonderful. So usually if there's a book I really want, I'll just search it up and I'll add it to my cart and wait until there are 2 books that I want, and then I'll buy 2 random books. And that was the case with the next few books that I bought. These are all 4 from them. They're all 4 from them. The first is Jane Smiley's Moo. After reading 1,000 Acres, I've been looking for a Jane Smiley book to read. I loved 1,000 Acres, but all of her other books really don't, pique my interest at all. I don't know why that is. I mean, 1,000 Acres didn't really pique my interest at all either, but I picked it up because it won the Pulitzer Prize, and it was fantastic. She has one about horses, and I hate the marketing. Peristorkia or something like that in Paris, and I hate the marketing so much that it's in my pile of books to get rid of. So I couldn't find another Jane Smiley book to read until I stumbled across a wonderful woman's vlog talking about how much she loved Moo. She was reading it and how much she enjoyed it, and that it was wonderful, and I love the title and I love the cover, and so I was like, I'll add that to my cart, and then I added it to my cart and bought it. Oh, the booktubers who mentioned it is Jaded Reads, in parentheses Diamond. I will link her channel below. Sometimes I feel silly about linking YouTubers because I'm like bullying them to give me a response. Listen, I'm not. You don't have to engage with me. Or I'll link the video. Maybe I'll link the video. It's a wonderful video. She has wonderful thoughts. I love her driving around in her car and talking to me about this book. But I'm really looking forward to Moo. Okay, we'll do Chess Story by Stefan Zweig. I don't know. I swear I've been hearing my broads on BookTube talk about this man. I don't remember who though, but this also piqued my interest, and it is so short that it's prime Tinder for a viral recommendations video. I can just read a bunch of short books and recommend them to you, and you'll eat them up. Listen, I too was enamored by The Queen's Gambit, a wonderful TV show. I love games. I love games, and I think that a chess premise story is wonderful, and so I was really itching to read this. This was the most expensive book I've probably ever bought from a used book vendor on eBay, per se. Listen, let's not get into the minutia. I'll bore you and your little brain. This was like $8, but with the buy 3 get 1, it was a wonderful deal. The next book I got, well, let's do it together. I recently watched a documentary on Norman Mailer, and I was tremendously inspired, and I was like, I would love to read his books. I think that I might just keep watching the documentary instead, but I did buy 2 of his books just in case. The Executioner's Song, I did not realize it is this long, but it's written in vignette styles. It's just tiny little paragraphs, and so that might really propel the book forward. But this won the Pulitzer Prize in the 70s, 80s maybe? I don't know. Joan Didion blurbs it. Joan Didion is a big fan of this man. They're both dead. But she blurbs it on the front, and she says, "The big book no one but Mailer could have dared. Absolutely astonishing." Which is not why I bought it, but I was like, that's a plus. Didion's a wonderful gal. I think Executioner's Song has something to do with prison. He actually befriended a man in prison and really worked hard to get him out of prison, and then he stabbed a waiter to death, killed him. And I think in the aftermath of that, I'm talking about Norman Mailer, is real life, and in the aftermath of that, I think he wrote Executioner's Song. The other book I got is much shorter, and it is An American Dream, and I don't know, I swear I read somewhere that Didion said that this was the first good New York novel since The Great Gatsby, and also it was kind of feeling American Psycho-y, and also it was much shorter, and I was like, this might be a good place to get into Norman Mailer. I think that I could really enjoy this. I have recently realized that I'm not reading enough old dead white men, and so that's kind of going to be my mood board for the rest of the year. I'm talking Norman Mailer, Tropic of Cancer, maybe some Russians, maybe some Hemingway, maybe whoever. Next book I got is The Little Prince. I've been wanting to buy this for years, but I was like, I'll find it at a thrift store, and I did. Look at this beautiful copy. I don't really know anything about this. I mean, the ending has been spoiled for me, I think, but just in case it hasn't, do not go aping out in the comments, you dumb doggy. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when I'll read it. Next book I bought is After Dark by Haruki Murakami. I found this beautiful, look at this beautiful copy. Beautiful copy. I found it at a thrift store for 50 cents a day after I watched Modern Ajuma's video. It was her reading wrap up in which she read this for some month, and she said she hated it, and I was like, that is that's awful. And so I almost left it at the thrift store, but I was like, I never find Murakami books at the thrift store or at the library. Everyone always checks them out. Or at used bookstores. I can't get a grip on this man. I don't know when I'm going to read this. I don't know if I'm going to read this, but I feel like her thoughts, Yena's, were probably really on point. So I'm worried, and I probably will never read this. But I couldn't leave it behind. Next book I got at the Goodwill bins. This is Midnight in Sicily, and I don't know what this is about. I bought it because I thought it looked hot, and it's published by Vintage, and there was one more reason. I think because the synopsis interested me. It says, on the southern coast of Italy lies Sicily, home to an ancient culture that, with its stark landscapes, glorious coastlines, and extraordinary treasure troves of art and archaeology, has seduced travelers for centuries. But at the heart of the island's rare beauty is a network of violence and corruption that reaches into every corner of Sicilian life. The Mafia. And I'm watching The Sopranos now, so I was like, that I've heard enough. I will read this book. I might actually read this book. Next book I also got at the bins. This is Zorba the Greek, which I've been looking for a copy of, but it's expensive on Amazon or something. And I like this edition a bunch. There is an inscription per se. Someone just wrote a note in it. I'll read it to you. It says, to Colin from Dad, Nikos was in my workshop class in Iowa. That is crazy. That's crazy. I tried to search up seeing if he was ever in the Iowa Writers Workshop or something to see, I don't know. But I couldn't find any information, but I don't know why someone would lie about that. It would be heartbreaking if they were lying. But I'm excited for Zorba the Greek. This was 50 cents. It is Aesop's Fables. I've been getting into a children's story / fairy tale. I'm reading the Grimm's Fairy Tale now, Grimm's Fairy Tales now, and they're wonderful. So maybe I'll read Aesop's afterward. I did not realize how short the stories are. Each story is like a paragraph. Next book I got is Running as Therapy, an Integrated Approach. This was at the same bookstore that I got the Margaret Atwood book at, so it was free. And I picked it up off the bookshelf and I was like, why would I get a non-fiction book? With the advent of the internet, all information is online, studies are online. I mean, some of them are not free. You dirty dogs, give me the information. But there is a lot of information online. Why would I want it in a book that I'll probably never read? I have the same qualm, it's not a gripe, qualm with cookbooks. It's like, why would you get a cookbook when there are all these recipes online? And the answer is that if you go on online articles, they become redundant, and the selection of information is not curated like it would be in a cookbook or Running as Therapy, a non-fiction. This is like really just studies. It's not like your typical non-fiction book. It is heavily study filled, and I thought, listen, I love data, I love whatever. And so I thought that this book would be really fun and it wouldn't become redundant. If I look up one article, I get fatigue from looking up articles. And also, despite loving to read an article on my laptop because I just prop it up, lay in bed and stare at the screen, I thought it would be nice to read on paper, and also it'll make me feel more important and erudite to read out of a book instead of a laptop. I just thought that Running as Therapy was a snappy title and I picked it up. The next book I got is Mary L. Trump, PhD's Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. I found this at the Goodwill bins and it made me laugh, and so I bought it. The concept of your crazy ass niece, PhD psychiatrist niece, exposing you is awesome. The family disloyalty is awesome. Broads are not loyal these days. Nobody is loyal these days. Mary L. Trump is not loyal. I know nothing about politics, but I thought that if I ever were to learn anything about politics, the best method and the only method that I would imbibe would be family gossip by a deranged psychiatrist. The last book I got was also from the free bookstore. And it's not a free bookstore. It was a thrift store where the books were free. This is The Burden of Proof by Scott Turow. Look at him smizing on the back. Look at him. Look at him. He's just a guy. This is part of his series. I don't know. I think that the protagonist in this, I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I can't talk about it. I own his first book, Presumed Innocent, and I think this is the second book he read. I have not read Presumed Innocent, but Scott Turow gives Dan Brown vibes, and Dan Brown has been a lazy bum. There have been no new Dan Brown books, so I'm looking for a replacement, and Scott Turow just might be that. I'm looking for fun, romp-y thrillers. I will probably never read this book. But I like the cover design. It's very Art Deco. Also, there's a Apple TV or something show with, I think, someone famous in it. I don't know. Not that I'm gonna watch it. Not that I have Apple TV. Not that I watch Apple TV. But I got a couple of ads for it. And so he has been in my mind. He has been in my mind. That's all for the book haul. I will see you soon. You look gorgeous, by the way. Holy, I'll see you soon. And I said, you know, it's too far. It's too far. I can't do it. Normally, I'm not like that with customer service people. I'm not like that with anybody. Listen, I don't like a reunion. I don't like a reconnection. That's probably a me problem. And I don't love pestering these poor cashiers who you think are like your parasocial but real friends. Like, I'm not. Trader Joe's is not my therapist. They are my carrot juice suppliers.